Most men spend their lives preparing for challenges that arrive too early. They build careers, raise families, and earn respect. Yet none of those is the hardest part of life. The hardest part begins when there is nothing left to prove. The house grows quieter, one chair stays empty, one phone rings less often. The calendar suddenly feels more valuable than the clock. For decades, life measures what you can build. After 60, it begins asking a different question. Not what you achieved, what all those years quietly made of you. Almost no one notices when that change begins. It doesn't begin with retirement. It doesn't begin with illness. By the end of this video, you'll know the moment everything quietly changes. Now you will discover 5 timeless lessons that can help you meet this season of life with greater clarity, quiet strength, and lasting peace. You may discover that the most important chapter of your life has already begun. The life you built can become the life that traps you. It happens on a perfectly ordinary morning. You wake up. The alarm is no longer necessary. No one is waiting for you. No meeting begins in an hour. Nothing feels wrong. Yet something feels strangely unfamiliar. Why? After all those years of working toward freedom, why does freedom suddenly feel so uncomfortable? Most men blame retirement. Robert did too. After 38 years as an engineer, he retired. For the first week, he still woke before sunrise. He showered, he shaved, he put on a clean shirt every morning. One day, his wife smiled and asked, "Why are you getting ready? You don't have to go anywhere." Robert looked down at his shirt. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he quietly answered, "I know. I'm just used to it." What he never admitted was that a part of him was still listening for the phone, an old colleague, a client, anyone who still needed the man he had been yesterday. The call never came. For almost 3 weeks, Robert believed retirement had stolen something from him. He was wrong. Retirement wasn't hurting him. Losing the role that defined him was. Here's the painful part. Robert wasn't waiting for a phone call. He was waiting for proof that he still mattered. Life removes your titles to ask one final question. Who are you when usefulness is no longer your identity? Because the strongest men eventually discover something the younger version of themselves never understood. Titles disappear, character doesn't. And only one of them was ever truly yours. The day your worth no longer depends on being needed, retirement becomes a return, not an ending, but to the man who had been quietly waiting beneath every role you ever played. If this lesson speaks to where you are in life, take a moment to like this video and tell me in the comments, which role was the hardest for you to let go of? The things that refuse to let go of you. Many men notice this after 60. A face they have not thought about in years suddenly appears while they are drinking their morning coffee. A conversation from decades ago returns without warning. A name they had almost forgotten somehow feels closer than yesterday. Out of thousands of memories, why does one single moment suddenly return after 30 years? Why that memory and not the others? Most men never ask that question. But before this chapter ends, you'll know the answer. Imagine an old workshop. One drawer keeps opening because something inside was never put back. You close it. A few days later, it is open again. Not because the drawer is broken, because something inside keeps pushing against it. The mind works the same way. Some memories refuse to stay buried, not because they are the biggest, because they were never completed. One man spent 20 years rehearsing an apology. He knew exactly what he wanted to say. He imagined the conversation hundreds of times. I should call him tomorrow. Tomorrow became next month. Next month became next year. Then one day there was no one left to answer the phone. The apology never disappeared. It simply had nowhere left to go. That is how unfinished moments survive. Not because they matter more than everything else, because they never reached an ending. Seneca warned that we suffer more from what we carry inside than from what happens outside us. Some men spend decades carrying a conversation that ended long ago. Sometimes the person who still needs forgiveness is not the other man. It is you, not because the other person deserves it, because your own mind deserves to be free. Most men believe peace comes from forgetting. It rarely does. Forgetting hides a memory. Completion transforms it. Sometimes completion is a conversation. Sometimes it is an apology. Sometimes it is a letter that is never sent. Sometimes it is simply telling yourself the truth for the first time. You cannot rewrite what happened. You can decide that it no longer gets to write the rest of your life. That is why some memories return after decades of silence. Not to punish you, not to haunt you, but to ask for the ending they never received. And the moment you give them that, they finally become part of your past instead of quietly living inside your present. What silence finally allows you to see? There is a strange moment that arrives in many men's lives after 60. Nothing dramatic happens. The same house, the same neighborhood, the same morning light. Yet everything somehow feels different. Not because the world has changed, because for the first time in decades, you are no longer rushing past it. Many men think they are searching for peace. Then the house finally becomes quiet. Within minutes, the television is on. The phone is in their hand. A task suddenly feels urgent. Why? If silence is what they wanted, why do they escape it? Keep that question in mind. Imagine an old mirror covered with years of dust. Little by little, the dust hides your reflection. Not because the mirror has changed, because layer after layer has settled on its surface. The mind works the same way. Years of work, responsibility, and constant noise slowly settle over the mind until we can no longer see ourselves clearly. Not all at once, just a little every day. Then life finally slows down. Silence does not give you a new reflection. It simply clears away enough of the dust for you to recognize yourself again. For the first time in years, your mind is no longer running faster than your life. As the years pass, silence begins offering something youth rarely has time to receive. Attention. You notice the birds outside your window. You notice the warmth of your coffee before it grows cold. You notice the person sitting across from you. None of these moments are new, only your attention is. That is why silence feels different after 60. It is no longer asking you to fill every empty space. Most men think silence changes them. It doesn't. Silence simply reveals what the noise had been hiding all along. Resentment is an attempt to make the past obey you. Few things steal more peace after 60 than an argument that ended years ago, a betrayal, a missed opportunity, a decision you wish you could take back. Why can two men live through the same betrayal, yet only one carries it for 30 years? It isn't because one loved more. It isn't because one was weaker. The answer hides somewhere else. Michael never noticed it. Every family gathering, it happened again. Someone mentioned an old friend. Michael leaned back in his chair. In the back drawer of his desk rested a single unopened letter. He knew exactly who had written it. He never threw it away. He never opened it either. Strange. Sometimes we don't hold on to the pen, carefully preserve it. The letter became more than paper. It became a place he kept returning to without ever touching. Every time someone mentioned that part of his life, he told the same story. The same disappointment, the same betrayal, the same ending. After 30 years, the story no longer explained his past. It explained his identity. His grandchildren already knew every sentence before he spoke. Everyone else had continued living. Only Michael kept arriving at the same day. That is how resentment survives. Not because the wound refuses to heal, because we quietly reopen it ourselves. Every time the mind whispers, "This should never have happened," it asks the past to become someone it can never be. The past never answers. Only the present pays the price. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. It is not saying the betrayal was acceptable. It is deciding that yesterday will no longer be allowed to occupy today. The letter was never the prison. The prison was the decision to leave both untouched for 30 years. The past rarely keeps itself alive. We do. It wasn't the betrayal that shaped the rest of Michael's life. It was the story he chose to keep telling himself about it. The day he no longer needed that story, the letter finally became what it had been all along. Just paper. The last victory no one else can see. For most of our lives, success has obvious measurements. A promotion, a larger home, a growing bank account, the respect of other people. But after 60, life quietly changes the rules. The victories that once impressed everyone else begin to matter less. There is one question every man eventually asks himself. Curiously, almost nobody asked it before 60. What? Keep that question in mind. Imagine dropping a single stone into a still lake. Within seconds, the stone disappears beneath the surface. Yet the water keeps moving. The ripples travel far beyond the place where the stone first entered. Most men spend their younger years trying to become the stone. Stronger, more successful, more admired. Then one day they quietly realize something they spent decades avoiding. Every stone disappears. The ripples don't, not because death suddenly becomes closer, because time no longer feels endless, and life quietly asks a different question. What will continue because you were here? Some men discover they spent too many years chasing approval. Others realize they built successful lives while quietly neglecting the people who gave those successes meaning. The applause stopped. And that became the first honest conversation of their lives. Perhaps this is why so many older men become calmer. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, because pretending becomes exhausting. Little by little, a man begins choosing truth over appearance, enough over more, presence over urgency, peace over proving. Children rarely remember every lesson you taught them. They remember how they felt when they were with you. Friends may forget your accomplishments. They rarely forget your presence. Long after your voice has become a memory, your character may still be quietly shaping someone else's life. One day, every stone disappears. The ripples don't. That is legacy, not what you built, but what continued because you were here. At the beginning of this video, I asked when the greatest test of a man's life truly begins. Now you know. It does not begin with retirement. It does not begin when you turn 60. It begins the first day your roles stop answering the question, who am I? Most men believe that is the test. It isn't. That is only the invitation. The real test comes after that. Can you let go without becoming bitter? Can you remember without becoming trapped? Can you sit in silence without running from yourself? Can you become calmer instead of harder? Can you become wiser instead of more afraid? Because after 60, life quietly changes what it measures. It no longer asks how much you built. It asks what all that building turned you into. Perhaps every challenge before 60 was preparing you for this one. Time is no longer counting your achievements. It is revealing your character. That is the greatest test after 60. Not whether you have enough years left, but whether the years already lived have made you into the man you hope to become. If you would like to continue this journey with us, subscribe to Move or Die. Stoic. Until next time, take care of your mind, your character, and the time you still have.